Practice 4. Listen to a lecture in a business class.
Customer service is normally an integral part of a company's customer value proposition. Businesses have constant contacts with customers and try to know what selling points appeal to their customers. Recent research shows that customers rate time as a top priority and do not enjoy waiting. In response to that, each company tries to reduce the actual service time or let them think their waiting time has been reduced. Perceived waiting time is the amount of time people think they have been waiting to get the service. There are two ways to address these problems. The first way to reduce the perceived waiting time is to distract them with other things. For example, hospitals put TVs in the waiting room while patients wait to see their doctors. Hotels install a mirror in front of the elevator so people could look at themselves or adjust their clothing as they wait. The other way is to tell the actual waiting time to the customers. Customers who have waited only for 5 minutes mostly think they have waited for 10 minutes or more. So telling them the actual waiting time, in other words, making the actual time be the perceived time, will help out both the customers and the company. That is why you see a boarding board at the train station. The train stations provide the actual arrival and departure times so the passengers feel better. This lets them know they're not waiting more than they are.
The professor explained 2 different ways companies use to decrease perceived waiting time. Explain what these 2 methods are and how they are used in different situations. Please begin speaking after the beep. Sample answer.
In the lecture, the professor explains about perceived waiting time and how companies use 2 different methods. One method is giving customers something to do when they wait for a service. For example, when a person is waiting at a bank, his waiting time can feel shorter than his expectation because there are other things he can do, such as reading a magazine or watching TV. For example, the hospital installs mirrors so the patients can look at themselves and forget about waiting. Another method is to inform them of the exact waiting time. This way, customers feel relaxed because their perceived and actual waiting times are equal. Posting the actual time prevents customers' perceived waiting time from exceeding the actual waiting time.
Practice 5. Now listen to a lecture in a biology class.
Okay, class, today let's talk about camouflage. Animals try continuously to evolve themselves through generations. The reason, as we may all know, is clear: to survive. Survival is a constant battle in the animal world, and I will give you some examples of how sea animals survive with 2 different types of camouflage. The first method is to adopt a similar pattern to confuse the predator. Cuttlefish, for example, blend themselves into seaweed when they detect a predator. They make these slow and short movements, shifting back and forth so that they look as if they were seaweed in the ocean water. But in this case, the seaweed is essential because if they can't find some seaweed to hide themselves among, then this strategy is of no use. The other method, the simplest way, is for an animal to be of a color similar to its surroundings. This is called coloration. Dragonfish are a good example of animals using coloration. Dragonfish have the ability to generate a wide range of colors and patterns. So when a predator is nearby, the dragonfish uses its pigment to blend in with all sorts of surroundings. As you look at the picture, this is really tricky, but can you realize that this picture is not a photograph of the ocean ground itself? When you look at it carefully, you can find a dragonfish in this picture. It seems that it is covering itself with sand, but it has just blended itself into the surrounding sand substrate. This shows how hard it is for predators to find their prey when they have used this coloration.
Using points and examples from the lecture, explain the 2 different types of camouflage. Please begin speaking after the beep. Sample answer. Cuttlefish are a good example of camouflage where they adopt some patterns of their surroundings in order to confuse the predator. When they feel threatened, they hide themselves in the nearby seaweed so that the movements they make are just like the seaweeds moving along with the water. The predator could hardly recognize the cuttlefish from the seaweed. The dragonfish exemplify another type of camouflage. The dragonfish use the method which is called coloration. Using the pigments they have inside, whenever they find a predator, they blend themselves into the surroundings, so the predator could easily miss the prey that is just in front of them. Practice 6. Now listen to a lecture in a business class.
Database is used in a wide range of situations in the business world. But in order to get both the understanding and useful data, data mining is important. In case you don't know what data mining is, it is an analytic process designed to explore data in search of consistent patterns and/or systematic relationships between variables, and then to validate the findings by applying the detected patterns to new subsets of data. There are two main kinds of models in data mining: predictive and descriptive. Predictive models can be used to forecast explicit values based on patterns determined from known results. For example, a company that uses the predictive model would think about how they could keep their customers and make them loyal. This means that they believe they should maintain the relationship with their customers and keep them as permanent customers. Descriptive models describe patterns in existing data and are generally used to create meaningful subgroups such as demographic clusters. To clarify, a company would conduct a study by giving out something like flashlights to gather surveys from people. If there are some similarities between the subjects of the survey, the company will categorize them into groups. So if the subjects happen to be in their 30s and are men, then the company would classify them as men in 30s.
Now explain the concept of database and the two models that the professor explained. Please begin speaking after the beep. Sample answer.
In the lecture, the professor talks about data mining. She says, in the business world, many companies use data mining, which is an analytical process to explore data to find constant patterns or systematic relationships between variables. There are two models, descriptive and predictive models. First, predictive models forecast explicit values from patterns from known results. For example, the company that uses a particular model wants to keep their customers and make them loyal, so they want to maintain the relationship with their customers. The other model is the descriptive, and this is used to create demographic clusters. A company would do a survey by giving out products like flashlights and gather information from their subjects. Then the company would classify the subjects as, for instance, men in their 30s, and use this information to analyze the database.
Practice 7. Now listen to a lecture in a psychology class. Today let's talk about one of the stage techniques called emotional recall. Achieving a more genuine performance depends on how much an actor did research on the situation created by the script and broke down the text according to the character's motivations and recall her or his own experience. Memories of past experiences may come without much effort, or they may require a great deal of power to bring out. In this exercise, the actor must recall the situation in which the particular feeling arose until the feelings can be remembered in detail. She or he can then be provoked at will. If emotional memories do not happen naturally, then firstly, the actor must recall a moment in his or her life when he or she experienced a feeling equivalent to that which the character is experiencing. This involves the actor's ability to recall an activity or experience from his or her past and relive that experience on stage. For example, let's say that you are Sam, who is very happy to bump into your old friend in the play. In reality, you may not feel that happy or that sort of feeling. The happy feeling might not rise inside. But in order to achieve a more genuine performance, you will try to recall the emotions from your experience. You will try to remember the day you met your father, who came back from a long business trip, which took him more than 3 months. Spontaneously, you will remember how happy you were, and the provoked emotion will help you perform an excellent Sam in the play. Using points and examples from the lecture, explain about emotional recall and how this theory is used in a play. Please begin speaking after the beep. Sample answer.
Emotional recall is recalling your past memories in order to feel the similar feelings for some specific purpose. The reminiscence raises your experienced feelings so that you can reflect the feelings of the moment. This theory is adopted when an actor is performing in a play. For example, when an actor playing the character Sam is trying to express his happiness meeting his friend, he starts to remember the old days when he met his father after his dad's long business trip. This similar feeling helps play the role of Sam more convincingly.